Hello, everyone. Sunday, February the 26th, first Sunday of Lent, minutes plus meditation here. So the first reading is from the book of Genesis. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other wild animal that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God say you shall not eat from any of the trees in the garden?" And then she responds, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said you shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, nor shall you touch it, or you shall die." So we see in this, the devil knows his customers well, right? So there's already something that the devil has detected. I mean, he's going to tempt Adam and Eve no matter what, but he seems to have devised a plan, if you will, or a method of attack. So maybe he's observed, and this is speculation on my part, but the answer that Eve gives to Satan indicates that my speculation may be correct, in that maybe they were looking at the tree and looking at the tree and looking at the tree, rather than saying, no, we don't want to be a part of it. God has said, don't eat of the fruit of the tree. We can eat everything else, but we can't eat of that one, or just leave it alone. Now, this is hindsight. I don't pretend to be greater than Adam and Eve, but don't remember, Adam and Eve were far greater than you and me. They had not only no sin, but they had infused knowledge and other gifts that you and I don't have. They lost them when they did commit the original sin. So the devil finds a method. He has a method of attack, and he exercises it, and she succumbs to it by going farther or further than what God had gone. She says, well, we can't even touch it. That's not what God said. And sometimes we make, and this is, the reflection here, sometimes we actually, take what God has given to us as a guideline and a commandment, for our own good, and we make it more than what it is. Something somehow that will diminish our freedom, or it just goes further than what God intends it for it to be. God really wants our true happiness, and we think that God is somehow trying to strip away or limit our freedom. And this is always a lie. We must call it what it is. Externalize and say, this is a lie, and I must ask my Lord to help me, defeat this. To the second reading from the Epistle to the Romans, chapter 5. If because of one man's transgressions death exercised dominion through that one, much more surely will those who receive the abundance of grace and the free gift of righteousness exercise dominion in life through the one man, Jesus Christ. And he kind of repeats this, therefore, just as one man's transgressions led to condemnation for all people, so one man's act of righteousness leads to justification and life for all people. So yes, God has permitted sin to enter the world, and no one understands. Sin is a mystery. We tend to make it a problem, but it's really a mystery. Problems can be solved, but mysteries can't always be solved. They can be probed, but they can't always be solved, at least in this life. This will be resolved. We will see this with clarity in the next life, why God has permitted evil. Obviously, it's linked with the mystery of freedom, or the gift of freedom. But we do know that if God permits evil, he has permitted sin to happen, then he's also built into that a greater good that can come out of it. And so out of the sin of Adam and Eve, ultimately has come the incarnation. And that's the greater good. I don't intend to explain away, the suffering of children and just, terrible things that happen to people. But we do know that God can bring a greater good out of it, but we can't see everything. It's just not granted to us here in this life. Over to the gospel. It's the gospel that's read every Lent on the first Sunday, and it's the three temptations that Jesus allows himself to experience in the desert. So the first one is turn the stones into loaves of bread. The second, this is taken from the Gospel of Matthew. The second is on the parapet of the temple, throw yourself down and God will protect you. And the third is worship me and I will give you all the kingdoms of the world. So the point that I want to bring out for your reflection is, what is Jesus doing here? First of all, he doesn't need to be tempted. He cannot sin. It's not possible for him to sin. Having said that he experienced these temptations was genuine, was authentic. And how that kind of is realized, I really don't know. But he's doing this for teaching us how to defeat sin in our life. Because we are really tempted to sin. We can sin, and we do sin. Jesus could not sin. He could be tempted. So the temptation was genuine. The devil really didn't know who he was in his full reality. Like, he didn't know this was the second person of the Holy Trinity. So Jesus is doing this so you and I can be taught how to defeat sin in our life. And by going through these three temptations, of pleasures of the flesh, the temptation to, the ego, to tempt God to all sorts of things, force God's hand, or even to want all the pleasures and powers of the world, Jesus shows us how to defeat every single temptation that we will experience in life. So we really need to spend time with Jesus in this gospel for the day and ask him to teach us and to prepare us for the temptations we will have. And three primary things that will help us to defeat all temptations. We read that gospel on Ash Wednesday: prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. I'm not going to go into them, just going to mention them. Prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. So the question is, what have you done? What plan have you sort of laid out for yourself to engage in some form of penance during the season of Lent? This will help you, and of course it will help me as well, to defeat the temptations that will come at us. God bless you.